In Ballincollig, joining us. Good afternoon to you, Anneliese.
Good afternoon, Patricia.
And did you have a nice breakaway? Did you get away?
Fantastic, yes. I was in the sun in Portugal and it was lovely.
Fantastic. Well done. So you're back nice and refreshed. There's nothing like a bit of sun in your bones. Okay, straight into questions. Noreen in Newmarket has an ulcer in her stomach. She takes Gaviscon and she takes a prescription med from her doctor, but nothing much is helping. Is there anything else you can recommend?
Yes, there's something called mastic gum, MASTIC gum, and that can be very, very good for ulcers. There's a great product, and we always get really good feedback here on it in the shop. It's by a company called BioNutri, and it's mastic gum plus, and it's a combination of mastic gum, marshmallow, and a few other bits that are very good to help heal the stomach. Another very important thing for stomach lining is zinc, and the best one that we have is the zinc carnosine made by Quest. That has the added benefit as well. It can help tighten up that little sphincter muscle at the top of the stomach. So it's brilliant if you're suffering from any type of reflux and any type of burning. And then the last thing I would suggest is that she would take slippery elm before eating, because that is like a kind of a natural Gaviscon in that it will coat the whole stomach with a nice kind of mucilage layer, but it doesn't prevent you from kind of absorbing and preparing your food for absorption, so it's less likely to kind of cause constipation or anything like that. So I do the combination of the three of those. Hopefully you wouldn't need the slippery elm and maybe the zinc carnosine for more than 1 month, but I'd continue on the mastic gum for maybe up to 3 months just to make sure it's well and truly healed. Okay, and what about diverticulitis? What's the best treatment for that? So prevention is the best for diverticulitis. So diverticulosis is actually what happens when the pouch, the smooth muscle of the colon is a kind of a very stretchy, smooth muscle. And if that kind of becomes weak and it blows out into a kind of a pouch, and that's what's called diverticulosis. And then if something gets stuck in it, it gets infected because it just sits there, and that's when you get itis. Itis is always inflamed. So diverticulitis. So ideally you prevent yourself from getting the pouches, getting food stuck in the pouches. So in terms of your diet, you need to have plenty fibre and plenty soluble fibre, because the soluble fibre is what keeps everything lovely and smooth, whereas the insoluble fibre, I always try and explain it, when you peel off the celery, you peel off the strips, that's kind of insoluble fibre, so we don't digest that at all. So you can imagine that's kind of harder to process in the colon. What you want is the soluble fibre that makes it nice and moist, like kind of very easy to pass stool. So that would be in things like porridge oats, apples. Stewed apples are great, stewed pears. Prunes are great as well. They're full of soluble fibre. Mangoes are fantastic. Rhubarb is great. So these are all great for the soluble fibre. And if you don't like those foods, you can simply put a spoon of psyllium husk on your breakfast cereal in the morning, and that'll do the same job. And then I would definitely recommend taking a good quality probiotic, because if you've got the good bacteria in your colon, they'll kind of occupy the space and they'll keep the bad guys at bay. They just won't allow them to overgrow. And that's what happens when you get infection. So I get a very good quality, broad spectrum probiotic, like Udo's is a very good one. The Biocult isn't a bad one. We've got a great one here. There's different horses for courses, really, Patricia, with probiotics. So if you're more prone to constipation, maybe the Lactobacillus rhamnosus is very good. If you're more prone to diarrhea, the Alflorex we get good feedback on. So ask in your health shop for a good probiotic. Okay, a nurse in her early 50s. What can I safely take with HRT for hot flushes? I'm on the lowest dose of HRT, says Marie, and I work shift work. Hot flushes. So sage is nearly always the best for hot flushes, and actually is very safe to take with HRT. In actual fact, most of the natural supplements are safe to take alongside HRT. It's not going to affect the way HRT works. It might actually supplement it, and it's not dangerous in any way whatsoever. So don't feel that you can't take a natural support if you're also on HRT. So sage normally is great for hot flushes. But what I often find works really well, Patricia, and again, great to augment HRT, is plant-based estrogens. They're called isoflavones, and they mostly come from either lignans like linseeds, they isolate it from those, or from soya. And the best way to take those is just as a supplement. There's a couple of ones that would be very naturally high, like Dong Quai, but there's a BioNutri do a great one called Dignan Plus. Dr. Vogel, they do a menopause support one. So these will kind of help again. It's like a natural based HRT. They'll just bump up your estrogen levels and they'll help in that way.
Okay, I have something that I'm finding hard to pronounce from a listener who got it in early this morning. Could you ask Anneliese, does she know anything about Retinoin, Tretinoin, especially purchasing it in Spain? It's for very deep wrinkles. I googled it and it's some kind of a cream. It seems to be more for acne. Do you know it?
It's basically a derivative of retinoic acid, or retinol, which is a very high dose of vitamin A.
You are a mine of information, girl. That's exactly what came up on
me. Patricia, I would put anything on my face if it stayed off age. So
right.
I know all those things anyway. So, you can actually buy it. Like Boots have a great range, and a lot of the time the Boots stuff actually have good research behind it. And I think there's loads of online ones. The Ordinary Company, they do retinoic acid as well. You have to be very careful about it, that you don't go in the sun. What it does basically is it encourages the cells to divide much quicker than usual. So they kind of renew themselves much more frequently. So that's why it helps with fine lines and wrinkles. Make sure you wear a factor cream, even in the winter if you're using it, because you could get pigmentation of the skin when you're using it, and then you'll end up with brown spots, which are worse than wrinkles. And you don't have to spend a fortune on them. I like Boots have a fantastic range. And as I said, the Ordinary Company, there's lots of online, beauty websites, and they read the reviews and get a good one there.
Okay, hi Patricia. Could you ask Anneliese if she could mention the charcoal tablets that she recommended for flatulence, please? What are those tablets?
So it's activated charcoal, so it literally is charcoal, and you can get it as a powder, or you can get the powder put into capsules. There's a couple of different brands. There's one brand called Windaway, and there's another brand called Kiki. You take them before and after you eat if you want to go somewhere. Now, it doesn't solve the problem. It just gives you that temporary relief from wind, because the charcoal actually absorbs the air in the colon. So it's a bit of a nuisance. You have to take quite a few of them, but it's great if you're worried that you're going out to an event and you're just worried that you might be a little bit musical. So you would take it before. A lot of people would take it as well when they go on flights, because they find it really helps after the flights. So either of those would work. But if it's a long-term problem, you're probably looking at maybe a digestive enzyme, because you're not digesting your food properly, or a probiotic, and that might actually solve the problem as opposed to just the symptoms.
Okay, Mary. Hi, Anneliese. Is there a vitamin with vitamin D and magnesium in the one? The reason I ask is I'm taking two separate ones at present. It would be easier to take the one. Yes,
there is actually. Prismag do one. The company, it's PRIZMAG, and they do one with a vitamin D and a magnesium in there.
Okay, hi, Anneliese. Any advice, please, about really loud snoring? I find it very hard to nod off, but I eventually do. I don't want to be constantly waking him up, but sometimes I simply have to. Any ideas, please? A lot of people will identify with this.
And you know what? It's worse, honestly, as men get older, Patricia. So I'd love that there was an answer, but I really don't think that there is. And actually, this is an interesting point as well, Patricia. More and more of my customers are coming in saying that either they or their husbands have been diagnosed with sleep apnea. Now, sleep apnea is where you actually stop breathing for a little bit, and it can increase your snoring. So if it is at a level where it's quite dangerous, because it does increase your risk of heart disease in the long term, they'll give you a machine. But to be honest, I think if you can't live with the snoring, how are you going to live with the machine? So even if it solves the snoring problem, it's still going to probably be a little bit disruptive to your own sleep. There is something you can do that you could try, and that is to tape his mouth closed at night, which sounds like a form of torture, but actually it really does work. It just retrains people and forces people to breathe through their nose. If the nose is blocked, you could try putting a big kind of dab of Vaseline across the bridge of the nose. That can sometimes keep the airways open and sleep slightly elevated to allow the airways flow, if that's the reason of the snoring. And then the last is excess weight. That will also increase your risk of snoring. So there's no magic answer, I'm afraid. Just any of those, you could give them a try.
Or like Queen Elizabeth, separate bedrooms.
Exactly. Good night's sleep is worth gold.
It is indeed. Hi, Trish, question for Anneliese, please. What would Anneliese recommend for fecal impaction with distended loops. Trying to eat fruit, etc. Everything I eat doesn't seem to be digesting properly. It's been going on now for a number of years. I can feel very sick at times with it. I've actually ended up in A&E. The pain has been so bad I can hardly stick it. I'm seeing a consultant next month. But in the meantime, any tips, please?
Yeah.
That's extreme constipation.
Extreme constipation, Patricia. And I was talking earlier about two types of fibre for diverticulitis and diverticulosis. So the soluble fibre is really what you're looking for, because that will help to soften the stool. Whereas the harder fibre, like the ones you find in celery and cabbages and the harder to kind of digest fruits and vegetables, that can actually contribute to impaction, because if the stool isn't moving, it just kind of backs up and blocks up behind and eventually becomes like clay and very hard to move. So what I would normally recommend to my clients here would be that they try and I suppose unblock themselves really with high strength laxatives, and then keep themselves regular by a combination of psyllium husk, soluble fibre in the diet, a proper digestive enzyme, a good strong one to help you break your food down properly, a good probiotic as well, and possibly a natural laxative, like maybe the aloe pura do a nice gentle laxative. And that can sometimes help, Patricia. A lot of the time, can help, but sometimes it doesn't help if there's something called lazy bowel, where the muscles of the bowel aren't working very well. So you need probably magnesium would be the best if that's what the issue is. And then the final thing I would say is that if you're exercising, drinking water, and your diet has all the good vegetables and fruit in there for fibre, and you're still not going, it's probably 90% likely it's a food intolerance. So most people think IBS is diarrhea, but actually most of my customers and clients, it's more constipation. So if you do a food intolerance test, figure out the foods that are causing your problem, and you won't look back.
Okay, well done. A mine of information. As always, have a lovely week, and we'll chat next Monday.
Thanks, Patricia.
Thanks. That's Anneliese Dressel of the Health Hub, Times Square in Ballincollig, and she'll put up, as heard on the radio this afternoon, on her website, healthhubstore.com.